Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Charlie and this is The Record Deal. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new album by Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist, Alfredo. After working together on 2018's Fetty, which also featured Currency, Alfredo sees Freddie team up with the mad scientist yet again. The Alchemist is a man who's created beats for a who's who of rappers in a career spanning 24 years. His production credits include Dilated Peoples, Mobb Deep, Pharaoh Monge, Nas, Ghostface Killah, and more recently, Joey Badass, Danny Brown, and Kendrick Lamar, clearly demonstrating his longevity in the rap game. Oh, and to add to that, he's also the official DJ for a little-known rapper named Eminem. Freddie Gibbs is becoming somewhat of a veteran at joint albums. Besides Fetty, Gibbs has enjoyed universal acclaim for the albums Pinata and Bandana, where he of course partnered with legendary beatmaker Madlib to create potentially two recent classics. Gibbs is someone who's always shown so much promise and so much potential, and whilst he's certainly been on a steady rise over recent years, the creative chemistry of Alfredo is where it all seems to come together for him, like a creamy, cheesy mixture. On Alfredo, we see Gibbs letting loose, revealing a mixture of personas that range from heartfelt introspection through to gangster swagger, while still retaining a sense of self throughout. The combination of Freddie's gun flow and the Alchemist's stripped-back, moody beats complement each other extremely well. And despite Alfredo being whipped up pretty quickly, the duo may well have served up a classic. Let's take a little taste. On the opening track of the album 1985, we're hit with a sleazy 80s guitar riff that takes you back to the time of perms and Walkmans. Then, Freddie comes in with his artillery flow, like rounds from an automatic. So intense, but so melodic at the same time. He drops lines like, Michael Jordan, 1985 bitch, I travel with a cocaine circus. Freddie's clearly not messing around here, but when does he ever? On the track God Is Perfect, The Alchemist concocts a beat that conjures up memories of early Mobb Deep. Its haunting piano and snapping snare is a perfect canvas for Gibbs to showcase his armoury of razor-sharp flows. Freddie starts to go pretty hard on this track, with lyrics like, all this gang shit in my vein, I got the rank, I got the blessing. Freddie also talks about how his friends are still pressing bricks, while he's making legitimate money in the rap world. As usual with Gibbs, we see some clever wordplay and double entendre, with rhymes like whipping the miracle. He tells us about getting shot and missed with the whole damn clip, and then the beat morphs into this dreamy, ethereal kind of vibe. It's sort of groovy but dark at the same time, and it gives the feeling of drifting off into some kind of drugged up high. We also get to hear the first sample from Jill Scott Heron, whose words run through the theme of this album. And after listening to this track a few times, I felt the beat would also be perfectly suited to Eminem. So M, if you're listening, jump on the track. Track 3, Scotty Beam, features the boss, Rick Ross. The beat kind of picks up where the last track left off. It's a laid-back song with dreamy piano that almost transports you back to the scene of an old gangster film. Freddie then takes further inspiration from Jill Scott Heron, rapping, the revolution is the genocide, look, your execution will be televised. Now, I'm not sure when these lyrics were written. I imagine before the devastating death of George Floyd, rest in peace. But the significance of Freddie's words seem to be more appropriate than ever right now. Although we all know that police brutality in the US and many other countries is nothing new, the timing of this album does feel incredibly relevant. Gibbs goes on to talk about how he won't be demasculinized, how he would commit a murder without a mask, and then tells a story of being pulled over by the police and being racially profiled. Now, whilst I'm not the biggest fan of Rick Ross, he does suit this track very well. He recounts being in his kitchen counting cash, with big bags of chronic and slipping off women's panties. Is there a single Rick Ross verse where he doesn't mention women's panties? Probably, but I bet there's not one without him mentioning money. But I guess that's his image, and I guess it's worked for him, so fair play. Track 4 is Look At Me, and we instantly get treated to the Alchemist sampling wizardry with a beautiful look at me sample sitting behind Freddie's trademark automatic flow. This is a song about flossing, or as Gibbs puts it, dripping water, recounting his whips from his A3 with wood and Louis V's on the seats to a Benz 6 and a Porsche Speed. Track 5 is Frank Lucas, featuring man of the moment Benny Butcher. If you haven't already started to appreciate just how well suited the sound of Gibbs and The Alchemist are, this track makes it blatantly obvious. The beat is a grimy and sinister affair that again has you nodding your head and making your gangster face. Freddie discusses how he tells girls he loves them when it's not true, and how he'd rather plead the fifth than snitch. Gibbs paints pictures with lines like, panoramic roof off on that coupe, I look like George Jetson, Space Ghost. Freddie also addresses how he feels about his position in the industry, and how his coke dealing past perhaps prevents him from getting the credit he deserves in the rap game. My name cocaine, they ain't gon' put me in the nominees. This could be a direct reference to how Bandana failed to receive a Grammy nomination in 2019, despite receiving acclaim from critics and fans alike. Benny the Butcher holds his own on this track with a grimy verse that includes some clever wordplay. Track 7, Something to Rap About, features Tyler the Creator. Here we have another mellow affair with jazzy guitar riffs and some loungy piano. And the track sees the two MCs rapping in very different lights. Freddie touches on his darker side, like his involvement in the drug game and crime world, while Tyler raps about his newfound superstardom and wealth, also describing the path he took to his position in the industry. Now, again, I'm not Tyler's biggest fan, but I have to say that he stole the track for me. I haven't really listened to that much of his work, but this is probably the best verse that I've heard from him. Now, I'm sure you Tyler fans will be able to educate me on all the great stuff that he's done, and it would be cool to hear how you feel this verse ranks against some of his other stuff. So drop it in the comments below. On track 7, Baby Shit, they switch up the feel a little. We still have that nostalgic vibe with soothing string samples, but there's more of a trap influence with that ticking hi-hat. And this is another track that contorts into a different rhythm and mood at the end of the song, switching to a slower, moodier bass line and introducing more spoken word samples. Track 8, Babies and Fools, features Conway the Machine. Another slow tempo track with an 80s sample that has both rappers recounting stories of how they came up and how the streets had all of them. Conway spits about how he was shot in the face, but also the fact that he knew he would always bounce back this hard from that incident. On Skinny Suge, we're immediately treated to a beautiful jazzy guitar and a beat that slowly builds before Freddie spits his first verse. And he's a little more vulnerable on this song. He talks about his fears of himself or one of his family members getting murdered, and how Freddie's uncle died of an overdose, with Freddie knowing that he probably supplied the guy that sold it to him. Even when opening up, Freddie never lets you forget about his crack dealing past and how he came up. I don't think he ever will. He even raps explaining that he owes a big part of his music career to his past. It has of course given him a lot of stories to draw from. So that was my 2 cents on Alfredo. How are we going to rate this? Production wise, The Alchemist manages to make his mark on the record, but without drowning out Gibbs. Instead, he creates a smooth and expansive soundscape that complements Freddie's variety of flows and cadence. He also manages to keep somewhat of a theme on the album, but the beats are interesting and varied enough to keep you engaged. There's some beautiful instrumentation on the album, and The Alchemist is able to create a variety of vibes to make it a truly memorable listen. Regarding Freddie Gibbs, well, as I said earlier, I think that perhaps this album is a coming of age for him. He continues to spit bars in the way that no one else can. He's still rapping about cocaine, and he most likely will continue to do so. But I felt that he was a little more multi-dimensional than his usual self. He was able to show some introspection and allow the listener to get to know him beyond his gangster side. The themes of racism and police brutality on this album certainly made for an immersive and emotional experience. I personally like music that's able to take you on an emotional journey, and I think Alfredo did that. And despite its short playing time of just 35 minutes, you really don't feel shortchanged on this record. It leaves you feeling fully satisfied, like a big bowl of... So, taking all of this into account, for once, I'm going to agree with Pitchfork and give this album an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to hit the bell and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Laters.